So get this. I originally had an intro planned out because I started this video as early as May, but because I A, have no concept of time, and B, have no concept of schedule, the original joke was outdated because I got vaccinated and that was part of the joke. So I'm just, oh my god, Jesus Christ, just start the video. Just start the video. Hey gamers, it's Arrow. Hope y'all been doing well. Yeah, so basically I made this all the way back in May when I was bedridden from recovering from getting vaccinated. I had like this, when you're resting but you really want to do something to get that extra bit of energy out. Yeah, in this case it was making a Pokésona. I've always wanted to make one for as long as I've been a Pokemon fan, but I never really had any ideas growing up. I knew it was going to be one of my favorite Pokemon, but I wanted them to be unique, so I had struggled in that regard. But I finally managed to get something down and decided to kick cringe culture to the ground in the process, and I made my Zona Aurora. Making Aurora was super fun. The basis was me combining two of my favorite Pokemon, Meowstic and Vulpix, but I wanted to take it a step further and really try to make it seem like a crossbreed. Like, they share an egg group, so they could absolutely conceive, but I always liked the idea of the baby taking traits from both parents instead of being a carbon copy of the mom. So in this case, I gave Aurora the main body of Vulpix, which would be like a quadruped build and tail. His ears are the same size as a Vulpix, however they're folded down like Meowstic's ears, giving him a bit of a Scottish fold look, which I thought was cute. The psychic organs hidden within are pushed towards the tips of the ears and has a star pattern, but that's really more artistic liberty than anything Pokemon related. I also gave him a thick mane of floof like a Meowstic and fluffed up the base of his tail more to mimic Meowstic's tail pattern. Both parts are super frizzy because I feel like though he takes pride in his appearance, he's not very good at grooming himself, so there's still a lot of flyaways in the fluffier parts of his fur. He also has markings similar to a female Meowstic's feet and hands, so he gets to have socks pre-installed. After I got the body down, I just played around with the colors and came up with two color variants. After running it by some friends, I decided to go with a pink and blue color instead of pink and purple, but I became super attached to both, so I made a workaround. At first, I joked that the pink and purple could be his shiny form, but after sitting on it and mulling around a little, I decided his fur had refraction properties, so when he's exposed to certain types of light, his markings change color. After his design was settled, I decided to try and do some more technical things with Aurora. First off, his typing. I settled on him being Psychic and Fairy since, again, those are my favorite typings. However, I also decided to look through things in a more meta sense, and although Vulpix doesn't gain Fairy typing until it evolves, I figured it'd fit a bit more for Aurora considering his moveset and backstory, which I'll get to in a bit. For his ability, I looked through the potential abilities of both evolutionary lines and I settled on Infiltrator, which ignores barriers and reduces the chance of encountering wild Pokemon outside of battle, which fits his cautious nature. That being said, he has a naive nature and often gets lost in thought, and he has a soothe bell that helps him calm down when he has bouts of anxiety. The moveset I gave him was the most fun I've had brainstorming. Once again, I looked through both evolutionary lines to see what they could and couldn't learn, and I'm pretty sure I had to fudge some of them to make it work, but I think it was worth it. Aurora isn't much of a fighter and much rather tries to avoid conflict and provide assistance than actually getting into the fray. So thanks to this, he has Helping Hand and Auroraville in his arsenal to help from the sidelines and provide shelter and backup to his friends, who are probably more battle ready than he is. He's still very young and inexperienced, so he has trouble controlling his psychic power, and the fact that he avoids conflict a lot doesn't really help. He knows Psybeam, but he has issues using it. He tends to fly back from the recoil whenever he uses it, so he chooses not to unless it's absolutely necessary. His other offensive move is Dazzling Gleam, when he's feeling a bit more braver and aggressive. Remember when I said his fur changes color under certain light? Well, whenever he uses Dazzling Gleam, the light he gives off causes his fur to sparkle and change into that pink and purple color scheme. He also rears back like a ponytail before charging ahead and just slamming his opponents with everything he's got, using the light to make his escape the first chance he gets. But why would he act like a ponytail if he's not one? That just brings us to his backstory. Aurora was hatched in Glimwood Tangle, found by a herd of ponyta. They raised him as one of their own, with the leader of the herd, a Rapidash named Celeste, acting as a parental figure for him. They would often warn him about the dangers of the outside world and was a bit of an overprotective parent to him, citing how humans would often come to take some of their herd away whenever they passed by. This made him very fearful and distrustful of humans, and he would keep his distance from them like the others, and look to them to see who he could and couldn't trust. This being said, he'd still be curious about the outside world. He knew that there was more out there to see and explore, and being a young Pokemon, curiosity naturally ate at him, especially when he'd find himself closer to the edge of Glimwood from playing with his Ponyta sibling. This curiosity will finally be satisfied, but in the worst way possible. At least his parent thinks so. One day, a small Rockruff entered the forest and befriended Aurora. Their name was Rocky, and although they were nice and a bit on the immature puppy side, they also happened to be a part of Team Aqua and had a bit of a sticky paw problem. The Soothe Bell Aurora kept was a special item to the herd, and they ended up stealing the bell. Feeling responsible for introducing the Rockruff to the family and fearful of his parents' anger, he ran away and followed Rocky, hoping to get the bell back. He did eventually, the Rockruff citing the bell to be a symbol of their friendship, but at this point, Aurora had felt like he was in too deep to go back as if nothing ever happened. So, although he refuses to be captured, he's now sailing the seas with Rocky, exploring the world and using this time to grow and mature, hoping to one day return home as a wiser Pokemon. Who knows, maybe somewhere down the line he might even return with a whole new appearance and mastery over his power. So yeah, that's my boy Aurora. Overall, he's just a little guy doing his best after being unceremoniously yeeted into the outside world. Hopefully I'll be able to actually develop his story a bit more, but he does have a small companion fic that I'll be linking in the description below. Thanks for watching, and I want to know, if you have a Pokesona of your own, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear about them. A big thank you to my Patreons. As a reminder, if you pledge $5 or more, you'll gain access to the Patreon only channel in my server, get cool sneak peeks and perks, and even access to the month's Patreon only video. This month's video will be a mini PNV centered on my OC Jamie, who's another guy just doing his best after all he's gone through. Special thanks to my $5 Patreons, Adept7777 and Mangepelt, my $10 Patreon, Sealkeeper, and my $25 Patreon, The Dominus Ignis. Without your support, I wouldn't be able to do this with the amount of time, effort, and love I can now. Thanks a bunch for watching, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Take care!